It's time to sit back and check out the RCWR show with Lee Sanders. Get fun, in-depth coverage and analysis from the latest in professional wrestling in AEW, WWE, NWA, Impact Wrestling, or the world of entertainment. From hit TV shows to your favorite sports like the NBA or NFL. All things music, movies, and beyond, while trying to make sense of this crazy world we live in. All while keeping it honest, insightful, and interactive since 2011. And now your host, live from the nation's capital of Washington, D.C., Lee Sanders.
Happy TGIF. Happy Fantastic Friday to you guys. What is going on? Lee Sanders with you all for a special edition of the RCWR show. This is our third consecutive night covering the docuseries on Netflix, Mr. McMahon. We're talking episode 3 for you guys. I think out of our entire reviews for each episode and the way we're going in, breaking them down and all that, I honestly believe, especially since I've now seen all 6 episodes, that this edition that you're checking out right now is going to be the shortest. And that could actually be a good thing for some of you guys, or that could be a bad thing. It really depends on how you want to look at it. But hope you guys are going into the weekend, smiling faces, good vibes and all. Shout out to my people further down south, particularly in Florida. I know that storm and all this week in the DC metropolitan area, we've been hearing not just a lot about it, but we've dealt with a lot of rain. There's going to be more rain that's going to be coming as a result of this hurricane / storm that's going down right now. So really, my thoughts are definitely with those in the Florida area. So we've been here these past couple of nights, and I have said something which has been a recurring theme since we've been reviewing this docuseries. Tell me something I don't already know. Now, for the record, I'm seeing some of the stuff that's being said about this docuseries online, and I want to address something that's coming particularly from this one group of of the wrestling community, which is, oh, well, so many people are upset because dot 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 dot. What did you think you were gonna get? What did you think was gonna happen when you were checking out this docuseries? What did you expect was gonna happen? And no, I'm gonna push back on that. I don't think it's a case where there were people upset at the way this docuseries was produced and everything. I believe where the majority of people are looking at this docuseries and are going, disappointed. Yeah, didn't quite live up to my expectations. This was weak sauce. No, there is no outrage. There isn't a whole bunch of people that are upset with this docuseries. I think there's just a whole lot of people that are disappointed overall with this docuseries because it's one of those cases where, again, I mean, we pretty much had said this with episode 1. If you've been watching the WWE product for, man, 15 years even, but I was going to say 20 years initially. But if you've been watching the WWE product 20 years and up, a lot of what's being covered in this docu-series, you know a lot more about because you lived it, first of all. And then there's really good source materials that's out there that plugs in so many gaps that is left in this docu-series that you're going, well, wait a minute. Why didn't they bring this up? Why didn't they further dive into this. And when we all go back, like particularly, we look at that very first episode of the docuseries titled Junior, looking into the origins of Vince McMahon, there's just so much that is, wow, we didn't go in this direction. For example, how did Vince's father and mother meet, his biological parents? How did they meet? What were the circumstances for them going, okay, you know what? Let's separate because this just is not working. In regards to Vince McMahon Sr. leaving Vince and the moms, was North Carolina, trailer home. They're struggling and all of that. In regards to that whole situation, how did that come about? Was this a case where Vince Sr. said, look, the boy would be better off with you because I don't have my shit together? What's the whole circumstances of that? And, not for nothing, but the fact that probably the one person that might be able to connect some of those dots a little bit more, speak more candidly about the Vince McMahon origins. Vince McMahon's brother, Roy, he unfortunately passed away a couple of years back. So, but you would have liked to believe that, okay, well, if the production team would have been able to get a hold of him, and then, not to mention, there's a really good book that's out there. It's called Ringmaster. Highly would encourage you guys to read that because they were able to uncover some new stuff that was incorporated in that book. There's also some really good articles that's around for those of you really interested in learning a lot more about the Vince McMahon biography and all that. But there's just so much that was left unturned, right? You're just looking at this going, I don't really feel as though I have enough information here. I'm asking more questions than anything, than the little bit of answers that I am getting. So what the hell? So, it's like little stuff like that. By the way, David Shoemaker, I've never heard of this guy before in my entire life. This guy just apparently came from out of nowhere. I'm well aware that what was it, the Andre the Giant documentary that had came out a couple of years back. He was just inaccurate information like a mofo, and I'm a big Andre the Giant fan. So some of the stuff that he was putting out there, I'm going, no, no. I get the role that they were trying to do here with this Shoemaker guy, but I'm looking at this guy going, no, 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 everything's not crossed off. He doesn't have all his eggs in a basket here. Why is this guy all of a sudden the wrestling authority? I mean, you might as well go on ahead and put freaking Peter Rosenberg in there. A wrestling match is a match where one person faces another. And you know how Peter Rosenberg is with his fun, colorful analysis. But no, I'm not a fan of David Shoemaker. I'm looking at this docu-series and I'm just going, my God. And look, I never thought I'd say this. I never thought I'd say this, but having seen all the episodes, but just particularly just going into each episode individually, I gotta say, Dave Meltzer has really come out as that. He's come off great. Very rare will you find me being very complimentary of Dave Meltzer, but he has come out of this docu-series looking like a pro, looking pretty polished off. He's definitely come in there looking more okay. Here's our fact checker. All right, anytime we got some BS or we're not really sure about something, insert Dave Meltzer, and he's pretty much giving it to you, right between the eyes here and all that. He's come away looking pretty damn good. But this episode 3, which was titled Screw Job, interesting how they pretty much had set this up properly because you get this incident that involves at that point the WWF Women's Champion in Wendy Richter and Vince McMahon trying to have Wendy do business the right way. He wants for her to drop the championship and all that, and she's being pretty difficult. And he's taking a page out of his dad's playbook, which is basically, look, just do whatever you can to get that wrestler, get that belt in the ring, and then everything else will follow. And eventually he was able to get that championship off of her, doing a little bit of a screw job to her in the process. Wendy commenting on the whole situation, kind of put a little bit of a smile on my face to see that they were actually able to sit down with her and talk to her. As far as I can remember, this episode was the only time that we saw Wendy, but Wendy realizing that life's not fair sometimes. It's a business. It's nothing personal and all that. But she really did not like the way Vince McMahon had conducted himself right here. And then on Vince McMahon's side, his whole thing is, it's nothing personal. It's just business. Furthermore, there isn't anything that he wouldn't do for the business. So I thought that was a nice prelude into the things that were to come, since this episode was obviously titled Screw Job. And here I am. You guys got to forgive me, but having walked on God's green earth for as long as I have, you can see the little bit of gray that's starting to come into my beard. As a matter of fact, I'm just going, God damn, not another case where we're going to talk about the Montreal screw job, because Lord knows we haven't heard about that enough. As if there isn't already enough material that's out there talking about the Montreal screw job, as if there isn't enough documentaries, little docuseries, little reviews, and the whole 9 yards, as if we don't have enough source material as it is on the Montreal screw job. Oh boy, here we go again. And it's just, we're talking about the Montreal screw job. And I don't know about you guys, but as that as that wrestling historian, as that wrestling fan that goes back previous decades, I gotta speak on behalf of us. I gotta represent when we go, wait a minute, how are we gonna talk about the Montreal screw job and we don't involve Jim Cornette, we don't involve Vince Russo, we I mean, seriously, like, we don't incorporate those guys at all with this particular topic at all. Okay. Well, if we want to mainly put it all on Vince McMahon here, okay, well, let's see how, we're going to handle this and everything. Maybe this is going to go in a direction that we, never anticipated, or whatnot. And I'm holding on. I'm holding on to that hope. And I walked away 50 plus minutes later feeling greatly disappointed, going, well, I didn't learn a goddamn thing here. I literally did not learn a goddamn thing, and nothing new. Now, what you're hearing in my voice, that's not me upset. That's not me even perturbed. If anything, what you're hearing in my voice is just disappointment, because let me see if I got this straight. I said this before, but this is something that we're going to continue to beat the horse to death here, which is not just tell me something I don't know, but in addition to that, it's also okay. Of all the questions, all the topics that can be covered here with Vince McMahon, I mean, you could have done, in a perfect production world, perfect setup and everything, you would have had the first 2 episodes of this docu-series be all about Vince McMahon's origins. Just his origins alone. That would have been a great 2 episode joint. So you're talking about 2 hours essentially. And the significant gap in time, 12 years old, and then we jump right to the guy being in his mid 20s. Well, wait. Give us some more stuff that happened in between here. Like, we're it's almost like, okay, I'm gonna show you how to make a pizza. And it's like, boom, ingredients, boom, it's done. It's like, Well, I don't know what the hell you did to make the pizza. If I want to go to the store and get those same ingredients, don't you think it'd be critical for me to know what ingredients I need? And then after I have my ingredients, how I need to make it, the temperature, all that. It makes a lot of sense, right? But I mean, just Vince McMahon's origins alone, that would have been enough for. I think you could have definitely done two more episodes looking into the whole territorial days, start up in the WWE and all of that. If you're gonna go into talking about the Montreal screw job, I mean, don't get me wrong, the way that they set it up in those first couple of minutes, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. But once you see the title of the episode, you're going, okay, I see where this is going, but maybe we're gonna make a new turn here. Maybe we're gonna go in a direction that we honestly did not anticipate here. And it did. And it would have been nice to get some new interviews, get some serious depth, from Earl Hebner, since he was the referee that called the Shawn Michaels Bret Hart match in Montreal. Would have been nice to get his comments on the whole situation. I know Bruce Pritchard, tried to chime in a little bit, but you definitely, besides having Vince Russo and Bruce Pritchard, uh, I appreciated having the opportunity to hear Undertaker talk about it a little bit more, and just the way he was feeling very conflicted in all this. Bret Hart, I told you guys throughout this docuseries, Tony Atlas, the show stealer of this, but as well as Bret Hart. Um, Bret Hart, man, I love Bret Hart. Love Bret Hart. One of my all-time favorite technical wrestlers. When it just comes to my list of greatest technical wrestlers, period. Bret Hart is my number one. My number two is Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. My number three is Kurt Angle. My number four is Chris Benoit. That, if you want to hear more of my list, just leave a comment or whatever. But like just off the top of my head, those are, but I got Brett number one. That's how much Brett means to me. Love that dude. To see that all these years later, not just how everything went down and how emotional, how worked up he still gets over it. But one new piece of element that just kind of really tugged at my heart, and I'm sure it definitely tugged at a lot of you all's hearts as well. And that was the fact that when he referenced Owen Hart, his brother, and how Owen, whispered to him when the screw job went down and everything, hey, it's really messed up what had went down, but make no mistake about it, everybody in the back respects the hell out of you a great deal. Oh, here's Owen, the younger brother, trying to calm his older brother down and everything. And to see Brett get choked up, reminiscing about that and everything, you just go, oh, yeah, obviously he's still, and then what we learn, later on, after Owen passed away and Brett's whole thought process, you're going, woof, whoo, is that grim? Woof, woof. Yeah, we'll talk more about it, but Brett obviously still feeling it, what's going on. Vince, his whole position, doesn't regret a thing. Pretty much, if he had to do it all over again in regards to the Montreal screw job, he would. Brett's whole perspective, man, I gave 14 years to this band, to this company, all the sacrifices that I made, the holidays that I missed, quality time that I missed with my kids, because I was always working for this man. And this is pretty much how I was done at the end. I mean, look, I remember going through all of that in real time, hearing about the whispers for why that had happened. Back then, it was pretty much known as the dark web, right? It wasn't as, oh, well, just go on the internet and you'll be able to find It was kind of dark and, uncharted territory back then was the web. We were still learning a lot about it and everything, its capabilities and all that. But, we had the message board forums and we had the chat groups and everything way back when. And believe it or not, for you younger folks out there, believe it or not, that was cutting edge when we were growing up back then. That was on top of cutting edge. That was our Twitter. That was our Facebook. That was our Discord or whatever other name you want to put in there. That's how we were able to stay on top of, certain news aspects from the wrestling world and all that. And I remember when that whole Bret Hart stuff, that whole Montreal screw job went down. I mean, it spread it like wildfire. I would say within about 72 hours. Within 72 hours. I remember right down to the point. I remember before the end of the school week, me and my friends in class were talking about, what the hell, man? What happened with that match? Like, did you see? Like, because when we watched it in real time initially, we all got together and we were going, yo, what the hell is up with that match? And we all said the same thing. It was a good match, but what the hell happened towards the end there? Like, Brett didn't tap out for nothing. Like, and we weren't wrestling uh you know, what's the right word I'm looking for? Aficionados or whatever. We weren't wrestling insiders and, oh, we know all about, we weren't like that, but we had two set of eyeballs. And anybody that would have been watching that match way back then definitely would have been like, wait, what happened here? Like, he didn't tap out. Like, did I miss something? Like, what the hell? So we all were talking about that. We're like, what's going on here? Like, he didn't tap out. And then before the end of that respected school week, that's when we all started to, hop on the web and, because we were trying to find like, what the hell was going on with that? What was up? What was up? And when we finally did try to figure out what was going on, we were like, man, like this looks really, really bad. This is ugly. This is ugly. I like how they omitted the Bret Hart documentary that what was it? Beyond the Mat, right? I like how they pretty much had omitted that because remember during that time period, Bret Hart had a documentary crew that was following him around. And their timing was perfect because when they were documenting him, he pretty much was in his negotiation process of a new deal with Vince McMahon. And they showed him at great length talking to Julie Hart, talking with her, his ex-wife. And something that I want to highlight, something that I want to highlight in regards to Julie Hart. I would highly encourage you guys. I still get compliments on that interview to this very day. I would highly recommend to you guys go out of your way and check out an interview that I did with her many years ago. It was right around the time that she had released her book. It's like her one and only book talking about her time being married to Bret Hart. And we had her on the show. This would have been, my God. All right, so November, we're coming up on year 13. I think this would have been maybe 9, maybe 10 years ago that we had her on the show. Now just think about that for a second. We had her like 9, 10 years ago on the show, and we're still getting compliments to this very day for that interview and all that. And it's funny too, because once in a blue moon, I used to have a couple of people that would make little snide comments about, maybe some false starts or a couple of ums. And, I would say to the folks in the comment section, like, hey, I appreciate you commenting and all that, but the thing that you got to keep in mind, if you haven't already, you know, very new to the podcasting genre, very new to learning how to begin editing and all of this. And I would tell them, it's really easy to try to bash when you're listening to something, so long ago compared to where we're at now. It's like, but if you can put those little things to the side, those little nuances to the side, you're really missing out on a really great conversation. And like out of 100%, like there would just be that 1% that would act the way I just described. But she added a lot of context as far as what was going on during that period of time and all that. So just something, if you're interested and you want to learn a little bit more, combine that documentary I just talked about with the interview. And you should be able to find it easily. I mean, all you got to do is just go on YouTube, type in RCWR, and then type, in addition to that, Julia Hart, Julie Hart, and you'll see it. It's the very first thing that you see. It says it's titled "Candid Julie Hart Interview on Bret Hart, Her Upbringings, and Her Book Heartstrings." I remember, if not a year ago, 2 years ago max, I don't know what was going on, but there was people, and I usually see this once a year on comments on this, but there are still people that's trying to find that book because that book is now like out of print. And apparently, those that do have it available, there is there is like a ridiculous amount of money that people want for that book. I think I have a couple of I know for a fact I have a few copies floating around. You know, make me an offer. We'll go from there. But Bret Hart, the whole deal with Vince McMahon, the 20-year deal. I remember that it was a multi-year deal. I never knew that it was that long of a deal. However, I get the thought process of Vince McMahon and I want to do everything in my power to secure Bret because I don't want this guy going anywhere here. I mean, it's very well thought out. It really, really is. But that was just so much money to be giving to this guy over the course of 20 years that it would have been better off. And eventually that's what Vince did, was, okay, let me try to make new stars. But in the meantime, all that money that Bret was going to be getting over the course of 20 years, like just no way, no how. So for Vince to sit Bret down, look, I really can't pay you this money, man. I can't. I mean, it's just suicide. Like I would like to, but I just can't. And then Bret, make no mistake about it, Bret wanted to do everything in his power to stay with WWE. But the thing was, Vince could not afford him. This wasn't a case where Vince was trying to push him out. He was not. He just could not afford him. And even though, and they didn't talk about it on here, Brad even was like, look, I'll go see what I can get for these guys, from WCW, see what, they're willing to give me. But like, man, just give me $1 extra to stick around. Just give me $1 extra and I'll stay. Vince could not even do that. It was not a case where he had any issues with Brad, no beef, nothing like that. He just financially he could not afford Brad and that contract. He just could not at that point in time. So for Vince McMahon, I think that was just kind of greatly overlooked here during this episode, is the fact that Vince sat Brett down and exploited the loopholes that was in Brett's contract to enable him to go to the competitor and be like, look, this is what's going on. If you guys want me, well, XYZ, and then hey, y'all can come in and give me this amount of money, and then the rest is pretty much history. You know what really would have been a fun element for the production crew to go into on this particular topic with Vince McMahon and go more in depth about it. You know what would have been a good thing to bring up? I wish that they would have confronted Vince McMahon and said, "Hey, just a little curious. We've heard for the longest time that you essentially sent Bret Hart over there to spy on the competition. Rumors have it that the main reason why Bret was able to go over to WCW is because he didn't just help him, but there pretty much was some plans in motion. And ultimately, it was all about having him go over there so he could report his findings to you and all that, find out what's working and all of that. What do you have to say to that? And it really would have been nice to get Vince McMahon, even if he just scoffs at that question and shoots it down with one word or whatever, just to steal, because you've had that. It's taken a life of its own. That's my whole point. Some of these questions that I'm bringing up, it may sound kind of silly or nah, Lee, it's kind of a waste of time, but it's not every day that you get access to Vince McMahon. Just how trying to get his signature on something, his autograph on something, is extremely, extremely hard. Okay. Like he is like that magical unicorn. Okay. Once, maybe 20 years or some crap like that, if you're lucky. So for me, I wish they would have explored that a little bit more. That really would have been good. I know they talked a lot more about what was happening there with the whole steroid trial and all that, and how when Vince McMahon came from out of that, many executives had left him, and he totally understood it because nobody's really sure what was going to be happening with the company, honestly. By the way, I gave you guys a fun trivia joint. I said to you guys, if y'all recall, that there was a wrestling legend, a promoter from the old territory days, that in the event Vince McMahon would have had to do jail time, this person that was in place would have continued the day-to-day operations of the WWF. They would have been the new person in charge. Did you all do your research? Did you figure out who that person was that I was talking about? If you did not, fun trivia for you guys: Jerry Jarrett, the father of Jeff Jarrett. He was the one that was put in place just in case Vince McMahon would have been found guilty and he would have had to do some jail time. But once everything worked out the way it did for Vince, Jerry Jarrett shortly left WWF afterwards, and he would go on to do some stuff for uh, the USWA promotion. Is what ended up happening with him. So keep that in the back of your head. Fun little trivia to have, and everything. So all of that going down, from the steroid trial, all of that. No Hulk Hogan, whatever is a Vince McMahon to do. Well, Vince McMahon decides, you know what? I created Hulkamania. I'm the guy that's responsible for everything here. Yeah, this is literally like, okay, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady has broken up, and right, and Tom Brady's with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Bill Belichick is going to continue on being the head coach for the Patriots. Okay, now let's see who's going to thrive without the other here. Who's going to last much longer here? I mean, that literally was the case when you look at the pull apart here, the breakup of Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan. Vince McMahon thinking, well, I can do this with pretty much any old body. And okay, to the point, let me take Lex Luger. He's the guy. And look, Lex Luger, great look. Great freaking look. I remember watching the original vignettes of Lex Luger back in the day. And I just remember going, wow, look at this guy. This guy looks Pretty freaking cool. I remember him on that tour bus, the Lex Express. I remember all of that. But there was something about him that I felt way back then that wasn't sincere. I could not quite put my finger on it. And then all these years later, when we basically see behind the scenes there on Lex Luger, Luger, yeah, he wanted the money. He wanted the fame. He wanted the attention that came with it and everything, but he constantly was a bitcher. He was a moaner. He did not want to take those photographs with the kids. He didn't want to sit at that table for 3, 4 hours with the meet and greets. He didn't want to do any of that crap. And when he did have to do those things, it was very fucking obvious that he was annoyed. It was very obvious. Don't believe me? Go back and watch the Lex Luger biography joint that came out on him a while back, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So, whatever thought process I had of Lex Luger back when I almost was going into my teens, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Now, when I look at that biography on him, I go, that's what it was. Like, okay, they filled in the gaps beautifully. But I just remember kind of going, and not to mention, I remember how it was when Lex Luger originally came in. Remember when he originally came in, he was a bad guy, but it was only for like a hot minute before he got flipped. I also felt, and again, you're talking to somebody back then, I was always a bigger fan of the heels. I thought he worked better as a heel. It was just natural. It seemed to be a better fit, all of that. Speaking of Lex Luger, really wish they would have been able to sit down and interview him for this. At least they could have done it from the standpoint of, yeah, what say you about, why you weren't able to surpass Hulk Hogan. But then also, it would have been nice to maybe have Lex talk about the creative process there that is of Vince McMahon and everything. That's a whole thing that they missed in general too with this docu series. Is all the creative ideas, character designs, visions that Vince has thought of over the years, that alone should have gotten its own respected episode personally. So, you know, it is what it is. Talking about the new generation, that's that new era. Before the Attitude Era, we had the new generation, which consisted of Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, uh, who else? Undertaker, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Razor Ramon. It was a great fucking time back then to be a wrestling fan. I would say when I look back, yeah, we had the rock and wrestling era, which was basically Hulk Hogan, MTV. That there was that respected era, and that was a fun little. But the new generation era always has a place in my heart because that's where the quality of the wrestling I felt really started to go up a significant notch. And you had these, it was also the era of somewhat a continuation of the rock and wrestling, but on another level where, you look at Bret Hart, for example, you look at Shawn Michaels back then, you even look at Nash and Hall, and you're going, okay, if you were to go to a rock concert, right? You take these larger than life type of figures, you take these good looking people. It's like, oh my God, they got to be part of a band. They got to be an actor. And that new generation cast that they had way back then that was running around, pretty much leading the way. Those were the guys. You insert them back in the day at any mall in America, they are going to have tons and tons of fans. that's going to be running up to them and everything. I liked when Ted Turner and the rise of WCW was talked about here, and just how Ted Turner was able to take the Lugers, the Macho Mans, the Hogans, the Nashes, the Halls, get them all to defect WWE to WCW. And you're looking at this and you're going, okay, so they're doing what Ted Turner and them are doing. It's no different than what Vince was doing back in the day, messing around with the territories and pretty much taking their top guys right down to the point. I loved hearing the producers. I think Eric Bischoff was the one that started it, where he says, "Oh, Vince McMahon's now, saying, oh, billionaire Ted, right? He's trying to be a sympathetic figure, is Vince McMahon." And oh, that big mean, oh, it's like, well, if that ain't calling the kettle pot black, like Vince, you were doing the same goddamn thing. How is this different? Like, seriously, right down to the point, I wrote down a line that Hulk Hogan said, which was in regards to competition and all that. And Hogan said Vince wanted to destroy his competition and eat it. And I'm just going, well, by the way, Hogan's such a goddamn snitch. I mean, I hate punk ass snitches, man, especially when it's a dude that's a snitcher. I can't stand it. I just be going, man, you's a punk bitch. Seriously. And I'm glad everybody on this, yeah, Hogan snitch, Hogan snitch, Hogan snitch. Like Hogan the snitcher, right? If it's not Hogan the snitcher, Hogan's going, I went and found the Vince immediately, brother. I went straight to Vince, brother. It's like, yeah, we know that. You like to go run tell that. We get your MO, brother. We get you. But for Hogan to say, yeah, he wants to destroy his competition and eat it. And then the producers confront Vince on the whole poaching that was happening, with his talents. Cause he's like, oh, boohoo, poor me. The handshake deals is not working anymore, because they're getting guaranteed contracts. They're getting guaranteed money, so much more money than what I can pay them. Boo hoo hoo, poor me. This mean old billionaire is hurting my poor little family, little owned company. Producers are like, but Vince, you pretty much was doing this to the territories here. So, and the way that he tried to talk out of both ends of his ass here and mouth, whatever you want to call it, you're looking at this going, nah, my man, like, no, don't even try it. Because he's like, oh, well, see, we're all about healthy competition and what Ted Turner was doing. No, he was trying to hurt us. He was trying. You don't think that going into the AWA territory or the Mid South or, big time wrestling, you don't think what you were doing, messing around with those territories, taking away the top talents and all that, you don't think that besides competition, you don't think that you were honestly hurting? Because if you really meant well and it was all about friendly competition, it could have easily been a case of, hey, look, I like what you're doing over here, and I would like it if we could work with you guys and, y'all work with us. We can help each other out. I mean, hey, it is competition and everything. We want to kick your ass, but at the same time, we don't want you guys to go out of business. Let's not forget Vince McMahon's MO here. He was going to each of these territories and he was going, hey, look here, let me buy you out. Let me buy you out. Hook a brother up. What's up? Let me buy you out. Hey, I'm telling you right now, if you don't sell to me today, some point you gonna sell. You should just sell to me right now because you can get a really good deal right now. But if you don't sell it to me later, I can promise you this. But hey, you definitely, what the hell? I don't know what the hell that's about. It looks like we got a spam joint. Looks like we got a spam joint that's right here. I don't know what the hell that's about. Hang on a second, guys. That's weird. That's weird. I don't know if that was like a Vince McMahon comment or something. That was kind of weird. But anyway, what is up with these new scams, by the way? We got these new scams. For those of you that's listening, we've got these new scams that's floating around where people are, and I got to give you guys a heads up about this because I was going to talk about it on the show much later. But there's this new scam that's going around where you'll either get an email, or if you're doing something like streaming on YouTube, you'll get these people that'll like pop up and they'll say like the most craziest, wildest shit. They'll go, I'm very well aware of all that content that you've been looking at. I'm aware of the videos and the photos, and I have access to your emails. I've been surveillancing you now for X amount of time, and your day is coming unless you pay me $5,000 in Bitcoin. I don't know what the hell is going on with that, but anyway. So, what were we talking about there? We were talking about the whole stuff that was going on with Vince and all of that. Um, yeah, it's like the whole territory way he was operating back then. It was pretty much a case where if you don't sell to me now, at some point you will be selling to me. You're just going to get a lower price, so you might as well sell it to me now. That was pretty much his whole thing. And some of the guys, once they saw how big WWFE, was starting to get, and all their talents was poached, was raided, whatever terminology you want to use, they would then hit up Vince McMahon and be like, hey, does that offer still stand? Or is there any way that we can come close to XYZ that you were trying to offer before? Like, we love to take it. Like, what's up? But just looking at how hypocritical Vince was, during this point in time, it was just very laughable, I gotta say. But other than that, didn't learn anything new. Did not learn anything new from this episode whatsoever. Like I said, the way that this was formatted and everything, you're looking at this and you're going, you know what? And it's so interesting from a television production standpoint. Let me talk about that for a little bit because I'm sure that when Bill Simmons and his team was putting all of this together, I'm sure that this was a case where they said, okay, look at these analytics. Look at how much revenue WWE is making off of, these merchandise. Look at what they're doing for their TV joints that's airing on A&E. Look at this traction. Look at how much gross revenue they're generating here. Look at this respected quarter compared to. I'm sure that they justified to potential what's the right word I'm looking for, to potential productions companies such as Netflix. I'm sure that they took all of this data and basically was trying to justify, yo, this is why you need to green light this. This is why you need to, you know, go ahead and fund this for us so we can make this series because there will be a return for you guys without a doubt. But when you look at the topics that are being covered on here, you're going, oh man, we're going to beat this horse to death again. But then you're going at the same time, maybe we're going to learn something new. I'm looking forward to talking more about episode 4 with you guys because episode 4, we learn a great deal about the Vince McMahon character, inspirations, if you will, as far as the Mr. McMahon character, inspirations, cues that Vince had took to, help build the persona and all of that, and some other fun little tidbits. So I'm looking forward to talking about all of those things with you guys. And in the meantime, if you haven't done so already, shout out to everybody that has put up some really good polling. Um, Letting your voices be heard on the polling here. I'm looking at the polling results so far. And to recap for our newer listeners, I asked you guys straight up, hey, Would you guys be interested in just one big old volume to be released when this is all said and done and we're finished reviewing this series? And right now, the majority of you guys are going, yeah, I definitely would love it if you could put out one big old volume. What's up? So, you guys definitely go vote if you haven't already, because you're definitely helping out with the programming. And then, speaking of programming, so this is episode 3, right? So, episode 4, we're going to be dropping that for you guys on Saturday night, 7 p.m. All these times are Eastern Standard Time, by the way. Sunday, be following up with you guys at 5 p.m. Eastern. Now, we are going to be doing an episode of Wrestling with the Topics. Me and the wifey, we're going to be sitting down and we're going to be doing that for you guys. I'm thinking we'll do that probably much earlier in the afternoon. But yeah, it's going to be a double whammy that day. So looking forward to that. And then that's at 5 p.m. though. For those of you that just want to know what's up with the live reaction for the McMahon series, episode 5 will be Sunday at 5 p.m. and then we'll wrap it up Monday 5 p.m. So we're getting there. I'm really sincerely, I'm looking more forward to talking about 4, 5, and 6 because it kind of feels like there's some more interesting stuff that we can definitely pivot to and all of that. So I'm looking forward to that. Meantime, be kind, rewind, check out previous episodes you might have missed on demand and on the downloads, wherever you get your shows. Just search the RCWR show. And yeah, again, shout out to my people down there in Florida. Please be safe, and everybody else that's going to be affected by this bad storm that's underway right now. If you don't have to be out there on the roads, can't stress it enough. Try to do your best to be somewhere safe until this thing is able to blow over. Yeah, that's going to do it, my pretty babies. Until next go round, wishing all of y'all to be safe and most importantly, be kind to one another. I will see you guys next go round. Take care, y'all. Peace.